thank you so much for being here. So a theme for this conference is the future. But I wanted to ask you, what's one lesson from the past that we should remember when we look toward the future and when we look toward the post-2015 agenda?
I think a lesson from the past is the real need for collaboration and partnerships that we never, I think, fully exploited. They were in the ordinary domain of government and us, and I think there are so many more other partnerships that we could have engaged with to get better results with some of the investments that we did. I mean, we spent a lot of time at the country level taking resources from the centre down to local communities. We didn't do enough to ensure that there was a robust partnership to sustain those gains that we put into those communities. Again, the paternal way of going down there and thinking that you've done enough consultation to know what their problems are and then delivering the solution. But we left after delivering the solution, and we didn't wait around to see whether that solution in fact rooted and it began to propagate. It didn't. So I think we need different kinds of partnerships in arriving at what is the plan for trying to resolve a problem, partnerships for doing it, and partnerships afterwards for nurturing it and for ensuring that we have sustainability. I think that's one lesson from the past that we must take forward. So think through beyond the inevitable. We think we've done it. I think if we're going forward too, we do need to find a role for young people in engaging with this agenda. Often we had, we mentored a lot of people. Young people would come and say, well, how can we get involved? And we never really had the answers for it. It was always, we'll wait until we finished and then we'll think about it. So I think engaging people right from the very beginning in, don't wait to say, well, come and see us and tell us what you want. No, shape that decision making right from the onset, from the idea that is born against a problem that we have, to shaping the solution to it and the implementation, but also defining very carefully people's roles and responsibilities so that you don't automatically assume that you do everything. I think there are strengths in the teams that we put together, and it may not just be a team in an office, but across different constituencies. So I think that is going to be needed for the scale that we want to go to. And it is, it's about inclusion. Again, we have to stop just thinking by asking the question that we've found what the problem is. Often asking a question in many communities about what are your priorities and what do you think is wrong, they haven't thought it through. And you need to help them think it through and not assume that they know. So I think that's another lesson from that. And I think also the power of transparency in terms of resulting in an accountability that's not forced. The minute that you are transparent about what you do with public resources, responsibility and leadership, suddenly there is a burden of being accountable because it's all out there. So you don't necessarily have to come and put a whole lot of rules and regulations that people look to break, but you can create a conducive atmosphere that says, wow, actually she's coming to inspect this project and we don't know when she's going to go off the beaten track to see what happened to the other projects. That was one style that we had in my office in Nigeria, was that they gave me a set program to go and see what contractors had done in building primary healthcare centres. And then they would put all this, it would be lovely, there'd be a water tower and there would be, power, and then I would cut the tape and they think I'd go away, and then I'd say, well, this is really incredibly useful. Can I climb the water tower to see if there's water in it? Because there were so many stories from civil society that said, there's no water in that tower. And you don't have the courage to interrupt a formal, visit. And if you have that and they know you're going to do it, then suddenly people become more accountable. They think she just might check. So I think that's really important to instill that in everyone's work ethic, that you check to see that you did deliver what you said you intended to.
Today at your plenary session, you spoke a little bit about the need for a universal agenda, to move away from the me back to the thinking of we. Yeah. So what do you think about the campaign to end extreme poverty as sort of a motivating force for youth to start thinking more globally. Do you see that catching on? Do you see that as...
I'd add just one thing to it.
Yeah.
Ending extreme poverty and inequality.
Okay.
Because I think it's one thing to try to get rid of poverty, but it's the inequalities that are the root cause of it. And if we miss that, we just might do the percentages again.
Mm.
Once you talk about the inequalities, you start to look to the root cause of that poverty. And it's so vast in different places in the world. It could be cultural, it could be religious, it could be economic. There are many causes to it in terms of the inequality. So I would say poverty and inequality, and that makes for much more interesting advocacy and campaign, which is universal.
You mentioned the abduction of the schoolgirls in Nigeria. What can we do in terms of the post-2015 agenda to ensure that things like this don't continue to happen?
I mean, as we said, should never have happened in the first place if we'd made the right investment. So in the post-2015 development agendas, we try to go to scale and see no one should be left behind and have that life of dignity. It's put the investments in place that get you an education, access to health, economic empowerment, things we're supposed to do for our citizens and our people. And make much more effort at advocating for those very basics, the basic fundamental rights that you have. We are not delivering on them. Not by a long shot, and that needs to happen so it doesn't even create the opportunity for those that would come and put our girls' lives at risk.